And my name is Dr. Rossana Musetti, and I want to welcome you to the 2020 State of the District for the Napa Valley Unified School District. I want to start out by introducing tonight's agenda. We're going to start out with a warm welcome and the why as to why we're coming together tonight, even though it's virtually. Then we'll move into reporting on the strategic progress that NVUSD has made on its 6 goal-oriented strategic plan. At the end of that, we'll share a short celebration video with everyone, and then we'll address those pre-submitted questions from many of you, along with, if we have time, taking a few live questions from the audience. So thank you so much for being here. I want to start out with a thank you. Thank you so much to so many people who've contributed to the work that has gone behind the 2 years of implementation for this strategic plan that we adopted back in December of 2018. I want to start out by thanking the Board of Education, our 7 trustees, President Isela Martin, Vice President Elba Gonzalez Mares, Trustee Robin Jankwitz, Trustee Cindy Water, Trustee Jose Hurtado, Trustee Joe Shunk, and Trustee David Gracia. I want to thank them for all of their support and their courageous leadership as we advance improvements in the strategic plan. Could not do this work without your governance. I also want to thank our assistant superintendents, Mike Pearson, Dana Page, Rob Manguala, and Pat Andrew Jennings, and the teams that they lead across the 4 divisions here in NVUSD. We couldn't do this work that I'll be sharing about tonight without the strong partnership of our labor unions. And so I want to thank Ms. Gail Young, who serves as president of the Napa Valley Educators Association, Mr. Edgar Ventura, who serves as president of CSEA, and Ms. Leslie Walder, who serves as the president of NAPS. In addition, I want to thank all of our site administrators, our principals, and our assistant principal for all of their hard work at the site level, where all of the strategic plan really sort of comes alive. And of course, to all of our NVUSD employees, our parents, and most importantly, our students who've been doing an amazing job, especially during these very, very difficult times. I also want to just take a brief moment to thank the 28 teachers that sit on the Superintendent Teacher Advisory Council, and to our 28 parents who sit on the Superintendent Parent Advisory Council. Your collaboration, input, and partnership 1 time a month over the course of the last couple years has served me so well as superintendent to get feedback from you on how we're doing as a school district as we navigate the challenging times, but also advance all of the improvements that I'm excited to share with all of you tonight. And lastly, I want to thank our Chief Technology Officer, Mr. Manuel Ruiz, and of course, Executive Assistants Julie Prezi and Vera Morales, who contributed a great deal to putting together the details for tonight's event and this evening. So why are we here? The why. Despite the fact that we know COVID is top of mind for everybody, we know that it's absolutely critical when you adopt a strategic plan, you have to take that strategic plan very seriously. This is where we outline our commitments to our community and our commitments to our students. And as we navigate the work, I believe that it's absolutely critical to share the progress that we're making across the strategic goals, 1 year at a time. Unfortunately, due to COVID, our previous reporting was sort of delayed, but that's why we're here tonight. Despite the pandemic, despite distance learning and hybrid learning, we're here tonight to share the progress that we're making in service to our students. So let's talk about those 6 strategic plan goals that have been guiding our work. We've got our first goal around student learning, achievement, and access. Of course, we're in the business of education, so students always come first. We have goal 2 around our employees, goal 3 around communication and engagement with the community. Goal 4 is about our financial and facilities management. Goal 5 is our commitment to being an equity-centered organization that focuses on inclusion so that our students feel like they can bring their whole self to school. And goal 6 is focused work from our school board that committed to the fact that if we're going to advance progress across those first 5 goals, they, as a school board, committed to also making improvements in governance. And so those 6 goals cut across all of the areas in running our organization and operating our schools in service to our students. When I was hired as your superintendent, I was charged to take the helm of this very, very special school district that has an amazing community that wraps around it. The district was struggling a bit. It had a huge deficit, extremely low reserves, and all was being compounded by a dramatic decline in enrollment. On top of all that, we would have never imagined the onset of a historical worldwide public health crisis. With that being said, the strategic plan has been a critical framework in guiding us through. It's also tested our leadership in the best of circumstances, although it's also challenged us during these very difficult times. But I think we've proven that NVUSD is up for the challenge. So before I continue, I'd like to just let everyone know that we have translation available tonight. And so if we have any of our Spanish-speaking parents, I would ask that you please go to the interpretation channel, since it is available for our Spanish-speaking families this evening. As we discuss these 6 strategic plan goals, not only will we share on the progress, but we will also take brief moments with every goal to look ahead. We'd like to just share with you what are some of the immediate next steps so that we can continue to make progress towards achieving these improvements system-wide across all 28 of our schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. Now, like I said, we know that COVID-19 is top of mind. We know that there's a concern about what's going on with this health crisis in our community, and we are always asking ourselves, how is this going to impact the educational experiences of our students? We know that there are concerns around health and safety, and as a school district, we have prioritized health and safety over the course of the last 6 months. I know I received many questions in the pre-submitted questions about COVID, the implications of the change in classification of the tiers from red to purple, and I want to let everyone know tonight that as I speak about the goals, I'll speak to how our strategic plan has helped us and guided us in navigating through this pandemic. But we are in the purple tier. I know it prompts a lot of questions, and our goal is tonight to answer some of those questions at the end of the presentation, just a bit, but please know we'll have a community town hall focused just on this matter, just like all those previous community town halls, where we try and get answers live to our community and provide you access to our senior leadership team who's leading the work to ensure that safety, that health, while we also pay attention to academic progress and to socio-emotional learning as our students experience schools in ways that we could have never imagined. So let's get started. Let's get started with goal 1, student learning, achievement, and access. In this goal, we have about 4 initiatives. We have a real commitment to the concept of college and career for all of our kids. We want the kids in the photo here tonight and all the kids across our system to experience responsive, engaging pedagogy. We also know that it's especially important during this pandemic that our students thrive emotionally and socially, and we want students to benefit from real-world experiences. So what have we been working on as far as goal 1 goes? We've really, over the course of the last 6 months, really 8 months now, since March, we have completely retooled and reimagined the educational process. We've used goal 1 to guide all of our decision-making to build a robust K-12 distance learning program. We know that in the spring, our students experienced emergency distance learning. We know that that was really challenging. Our teachers have done an extraordinary job of retooling a traditional in-person system to be able to provide instruction remotely at a distance. In order to accomplish this, the district had to engage in many, many decisions to make sure that we were positioned to deliver school to our students. And I know we take it for granted, but many districts have been challenged in getting some of the basic things that NVUSD has been able to get in place for our students during these critical times. We adopted over 15 new learning tools and platforms. Some of them you know, Dreambox and Math, Amplify and Discovery Education for Science, and Imagine Learning for our English learners. We've invested about $1.5 million on new curriculum in order to support distance learning. We're so excited during this time. We also adopted new science curriculum in grades 6 through 12, Amplify at the middle school, and Discovery Education at the high school. And some of the initial reports that we've heard from some of our teachers who piloted this is that they're very excited about what this is going to do for science instruction at the secondary level. None of us could have ever imagined that we were up against a pandemic starting in the spring of last year. And now we're fast forwarding to today, and we've completely overhauled our system. We know it's been plagued with imperfections. We know it's required a lot of patience from our community. But I do believe that NVUSD has done the best job possible in being able to provide this distance learning. Now, I also know in conversations with parents and teachers, we're missing traditional school. We're missing those traditional school tools. I'm also a mother experiencing this, and I have felt that my own 14-year-old son, as education has become virtualized, I feel like he's reading less. I feel like he's writing less. He's always saying, "Mom, everything's online." And I know that we're craving the day that we can get our students back into the classroom so that they can have those one-on-one interactions with their peers, their teachers in person, and also go back to some reading and writing in the classroom and even basic arithmetic. I appreciate your patience. We also are looking forward to that day. But one thing that we're sure about is that technology has taken over our homes during these last 6 to 9 months. We know that parents are working from home. We know many of your students are doing school at home. And one day, this technology takeover hopefully will subside. We'll be able to get back into the traditional classrooms, but we'll be able to use everything that we gained during distance learning, technology integration, right, and these innovative ways of teaching. We'll be able to then integrate that so that the classroom experience that we're all so looking forward to returning to will be enhanced and improved from what we knew previous to March 2020. So what else do we want to celebrate with Goal 1? NVUSD reopened 28 campuses for in-person instruction K-12 in the hybrid model. This is a 5th grade classroom at Phillips. It's been extraordinary to go to our schools and observe many of our students who've returned for that in-person hybrid. Our teachers have done an extraordinary job. Our staff, our site principals, our custodians, our food service workers, who've all reimagined the operational services and the operations of the day-to-day operations of school in order to make sure that we could prioritize safety and health and open the doors to our campuses amidst this pandemic. Very few districts in Northern California have been able to open all of their campuses, kindergarten through 12th grade. And it was our commitment to that Goal 1 that positioned NVUSD to successfully do this on October 26th. And I appreciate everyone's investment in this effort, your patience, your understanding, and your support. But we hit a major milestone, and we're grateful for everyone's contributions to that milestone. Amidst all of this, we continue to push Goal 1 forward, that key initiative around college and career readiness. We knew that many of our seniors last spring were unable to take the SAT, and we had already piloted SAT days on our high school campuses before COVID the year prior. And we were looking forward to provide the SAT and PSAT to our juniors and our seniors at all of our comprehensive high schools, New Tech, and even Valley Oak. We want our seniors, juniors, our high schoolers to have access to these college application milestone opportunities because of the school district, not despite the school district. And this is also an element in our commitment to equity and access. It was great. You see New Tech there. Our students, there were hundreds of students who took the SAT on October 14th. This was, again, amidst the pandemic. NVUSD showed up for our students in this way, and we were so grateful that hundreds of seniors were able to take this opportunity. And we're very, very excited about the PSAT Day, which is scheduled in January for all of our 11th graders who are willing to come on campus and take that exam. So, we're continuing to push forward with college and career despite the barriers that the pandemic has put in front of us. We also know, especially during this time of isolation, increased depression that we know many students are feeling, we wanted to start laying down the foundation for socio-emotional learning and support for all of our kids. So what have we done over the course of the last few months? We adopted a social emotional assessment. It's the Strength and Difficulties questionnaire in grades 3 through 12 in September. It essentially serves as a wellness screener. Well, you may say, Dr. Musetti, what does that mean for my student? It's really important that we start to gather this critical data so that we can target interventions on the academic side, on the socio-emotional side, on the wellness side, and the behavioral side for our students who are needing that support. Having the data allows us to be able to target intervention for our kids, and we know that we have a lot of work to do in this area. We know that we have a desperate need for intervention at the secondary levels in grades 6 through 12, and we know that we need to make more investments in our early learning interventions, our elementary interventions, because we want to make sure that our students are not left behind. So this assessment and some of the initial work that we've done over the course of the last few months is laying the foundation for us to pay closer attention to socio-emotional learning in all of our schools. So what's ahead right away with Goal 1? Well, you've heard me allude to some of it as I walk you through the work. We're going to continue to refine and improve this hybrid in-person model, while we also continue to improve robust distance learning for families that choose to continue to learn from home. We don't know how long the pandemic is going to be part of our lives, but we can anticipate that the remainder of the school year will likely be this reimagined educational model. And so despite the fact that we opened, we know that there are still improvements that we can make, and we continue to assess and refine our strategy in service to our students. We know that we're going to need to address learning loss. Students have experienced learning loss due to the pandemic, and we want to be able to close the gap for our students. And so we look forward to continuing to make strategic investments towards intervention to close those gaps. We're going to continue to invest in curriculum. We're just getting started with science and those 15 platforms. We want more strong, viable curriculum across our classrooms in the content areas K-12, and then a strong promotion towards literacy. We know we need to promote literacy, especially during these times. Our students over the course of the last few months and the few months ahead will continue to be overburdened with screen time. So we want to make sure that we are encouraging them to dive into books. We know that reading makes a transformational difference in the educational lives of students. And then we are very focused right now in continuing to develop our data management system. We know that in order to be able to deal with learning loss, we know in order to address those socio-emotional needs, the district needs to do a better job with data systems. And we're very, very excited about our recent adoption of STAR Literacy and STAR Math through Renaissance Learning, which is now a K-12 tool that we can use in order to track students' academic progress. And it's through the formative and summative data that we gather on our kids that we'll be able to address their academic needs with more information. So let's move on to Goal 2. And Goal 2 is all about effective employee relations and resource management. And really, our employees, I've been saying, are our heroes. And they've been, in many ways, the heroes during this pandemic. This strategic plan goal ensures our commitment to our employees across the labor groups. I want to thank all three of the labor groups for their partnership. We've worked really hard to continue to strengthen our relationship with CSEA, NAPS, and NVEA, and continue to use the legacy, really, of the last 3 decades of interest-based problem solving as our approach to getting work done on behalf of students. Because of interest-based problem solving, I think NVUSD was able to open its schools. We've been able, through that problem-solving approach, put the pandemic on the table as a problem and work it from our various lenses and perspectives, sharing our various interests, and then putting forth solutions that would ensure employees were positioned to do their job the most successful way possible, all while meeting the interests and needs of kids. This is really the human part of our strategic plan, because our employees are critical to advancing all of those initiatives that I reported on in Goal 1. NVUSD teachers have truly been our heroes. You know, we all support the classroom. Like I said, all of our staff members have done an extraordinary job of getting our school operations going, feeding our students, cleaning our schools, handling our front offices. But our teachers have really had to re-envision teaching and learning. They have been intense problem solvers and have used the technology that I alluded to, the platforms, the curriculum, to continue to guarantee a high-quality educational experience within these circumstances, very unusual circumstances, to the best of their capacity. And I want to thank them for serving as our heroes in the classrooms and ensuring that we continue to be able to educate our students. In this goal, over the course of the last 2 years since we adopted the plan in December of 2018, one of the things that we wanted to address was professional growth and professional development for all of our employee groups. When I arrived to the school district 2.5 years ago, I was a bit taken back around the inequitable access to professional learning opportunities. It was very haphazard. From school to school, you could tell that different teachers had different access to varied professional learning opportunities. And that's okay. We want our schools to continue to build their own identity and refine their skills around maybe a particular initiative that they're working on at their school. But we also want to provide sort of a baseline floor for professional development in which everyone has access. And we worked closely with NVEA in order to articulate a plan for 2 paid professional development days for our teachers in October and March. Unfortunately, the implementation of those hasn't quite been what we've envisioned this year. But in our first year, in the 2019-2020 school year, it was really exciting, that October day back at American Canyon High School, where we were able to have this unified day of professional growth and learning, where many of our own NVUSD staff served as the staff developers. Essentially, our NVUSD employees were learning from our own internal experts in many of those professional development rooms. The other piece around professional development, before I leave this, this initiative and this area of focus in the strategic plan, is that we also want to ensure that our CSEA employees, also our support staff, have access to professional development. And I know that we've been working hard to create additional opportunities that historically have not been accessible to many of our support staff. So we'll continue to work on that, and we're excited to invest in our employees. So what's ahead with Goal 2? More professional learning, more systematic, continuous professional learning across our schools, continuing to just build, strengthen that partnership with NAP, CSEA, and NVEA. And we're also, as you'll hear in a later goal, committed to fiscal stewardship, because by being a district that has financial stability and takes fiscal stewardship seriously, we're able to also have an ongoing commitment around compensation for our employees to ensure that compensation remains competitive in the district. We know that this was an unusual year due to the unusual circumstances, but we do want to continue to work on competitive compensation. And in addition, we really want to think about recruitment and retention with a focus on our new teachers and making sure that there's support there for them. And we want to think about ways to continue to better support them and develop a really highly trained substitute workforce as well. And so we know that that's been a need in the district for a long time, and I know our human resources team is very committed to developing that highly trained substitute workforce. We started a little bit of that work here during the pandemic, and it has served us very well. And lastly, I want to close out on this goal around our commitment to continue to diversify our workforce. We need to do a better job of guaranteeing that our students can see themselves in the workforce that is serving them, and we look forward to thinking about recruitment and retention strategies to recruit a more diversified workforce. So there we are, goal 3. Again, when I got here a couple years ago, there were a lot of concerns about sort of the lack of communication on behalf of the district. And so in this strategic plan, we were committed to make sure that we had an entire goal really focused on robust communication, engagement, and advocacy. Well, what does that mean? We don't want to be shouting at you, but we definitely want to make sure that you're hearing us. And so the visual kind of serves as that commitment. We want to make sure that you're regularly getting those improved communications from NVUSD. So what have we done over the last couple of years to improve the communication and make sure that our families feel informed about what's going on? We adopted Parent Square. We believe that we are using Parent Square at the site and district level very strategically to push out critical communication for our families. We've hosted many, many virtual town halls and Facebook Live events. We've established a family e-newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks, and an employee all divisions newsletter that also goes out every 2 weeks. Video messages have become part of our norm in terms of our communication methods, and we continue to use those video messages across all of our communication platforms. And then something that's really, really important to me, we've modeled that tonight, is that we want to make sure that we have translation at large-scale district events, at our board meetings, at our town halls. We want to make sure that our Spanish-speaking families, nuestras familias latinas que hablan el español, we want them to also feel connected to the school district. So we ensure translation and interpretation as frequent as possible. In this goal, we also worked through a branding committee a little over a year ago around establishing a strong brand identity. And you may ask yourself, how is this important to a school district? Well, it's important in a couple of ways. I'll be talking to you a little bit in Goal 4 about declining enrollment and some of the efforts that we've put in place to centralize our enrollment. But we know that in order to combat and battle declining enrollment, it's important for the school district to market itself. And when you go on a large-scale marketing campaign, it's absolutely critical that you have a strong brand identity. And so we're so excited that this summer we were able to launch and introduce to the community our new logo and branding identity that you see there in front of you. We also believe that a new brand signals that we're trying to do our work a bit differently, that we're trying to do a better job at attaining that excellence and equity in education for your children. And so we hope that this new logo stands for that. It stands for our commitment to our vision around transforming lives, growth, nurturing, breaking through, because we know that that's what our students deserve. And so we hope that you, over the years, embrace the new NVUSD brand. In this goal, we not only want to focus on communication, we also want to focus on building community. And unfortunately, that's become particularly challenging in this pandemic environment. So my team and I, Pat Andrew Jennings, Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Services, we wanted to think about a great way to sort of bring the community together where we could interweave some of these strategic plan goals. Our focus on equity in Goal 5, our focus on literacy in Goal 1, and then of course our focus on community engagement here in Goal 3. So this year, amidst the pandemic, we launched an author event series, and we had our first one with author Aida Salazar. She's the author of Land of Cranes. We had hundreds of parents and kids participate both in English and Spanish, and it was just a really warm evening where students, family, and an author, students, their parents, and an author were able to come together and talk about a really, really powerful story and powerful book. It was also exciting to host May Respicio, an award-winning author as well. Her most recent publication is there, you see, Any Day With You. She is a Filipina-American author, and so you can see Aida Salazar as an award-winning Latinx author, and May as a Filipina-American author. Our commitment to diversity and our commitment to making sure that we present culturally and linguistically relevant literature to our students, and that these authors can become sort of a core piece of those efforts. We look forward to you joining us on December 8th for our next author here approaching the holiday season, Ms. Juana Martinez-Neal, who is the author of Fry Bread, a Native American story. So we look forward to that event next month. Also in this goal, we have parent education. And parent education has become, again, even more critical during the pandemic times. We're so excited about developing a deeper menu of parent university and education opportunities for the NVUSD parent community. Some of the most recent topics that we addressed were raising confident and competent children and raising resilient children. Topics very, very relevant given everything that we're dealing with due to COVID-19. In addition, we've also provided personal opportunities for parent education. We've been giving one-on-one technology support and one-on-one appointments where parents could schedule a 45-minute one-on-one. During the appointment, they could learn Chromebook basics, they could enroll in future tech workshops, they could learn how to navigate their school and the district's website, and also learn how to navigate some of the student portals. We felt that that was really, really important to be able to teach our parents who needed that additional support how to integrate the technology at home so that they could better support their kids. One of my favorite pieces of tonight's presentation around Goal 3, a true manifestation of community engagement. The most important thing that we do, which is our graduations and promotions, right? These important milestones, memorable moments for families and students as they move through their educational journey. And we were all so stressed out and worried about the pandemic becoming a major barrier to us being able to create that moment for families and students for the class of 2020. But fortunately, under the direction and leadership of Assistant Superintendent Mike Pearson, former high school principal, very passionate about graduations, we were able to problem solve graduations for 2020, promotions for our 8th grade students as well, celebrate our 5th graders, and there was even some celebration for our kindergartners, of course. And we reimagined our graduations. We created community events, even with all adherence to all of the health and safety restrictions. We had drive-by graduations for those seniors, and many parents sent me notes of gratitude after these events, saying that they found them to be very, very personalized and that the district had done a great job. This was a great substitution for that traditional ceremony in the stadiums. And we look forward to, if pressed to, which we could anticipate that it's likely, we look forward to providing that experience for our graduates of the 2021 class as well. Then lastly in this goal, there's this concept of advocacy. And what does that mean? That's the Capitol there in Sacramento. We believe that NVUSD needs to be a player on the state stage. The bottom line is that California public schools are underfunded, and we need school districts to fight to be on a platform. They are advocating so that K-12 schools can get the funding that they need to be able to deliver on the educational promise to our students. So we've played a role in shaping some of the legislation. We've written to senators at the local and state level. We've also passed several resolutions in support, mostly around funding for K-12 public schools. Even at the local level, we've engaged with the Board of Supervisors and Napa County Public Health during the pandemic to solve a problem in our advocacy for public schools. And we want to thank Napa County Public Health for their partnership in ensuring that we were able to get past the hurdle of employee testing for COVID-19, which is a hurdle many districts haven't been able to figure out and has actually prevented them from being able to reopen their campuses for in-person instruction. So thank you. What's ahead with Goal 3? More parent engagement, more community events, more town halls. We're going to continue down this road of engaging with our community. We want you to hear from us, and we want to hear from you. We're going to continue to use that new branding identity to have a marketing campaign in hopes of continuing to address declining enrollment. And then we'll continue that local and state advocacy for California public schools, particularly for Napa Valley Unified School District. Goal 4, the chessboard. In order to be an effective school district, we have to have stable finances. And we have to do really effective facilities planning. So this goal is about, it's called tactical, proactive, and efficient asset management. And in this goal, we address this concept that school districts benefit from stable funding. And I've already alluded to the fact that California public schools are underfunded. However, if districts make good decisions with the resources that they have, they can transcend the underfunded reality to the best of their ability. And that wasn't necessarily the case with that declining enrollment that I leaned into back in 2018 upon my arrival. We also want to make sure with this goal that we're doing really strategic and tactical facilities planning. Facilities cost money to maintain. We know that they're expensive, and so we want to make sure that we're really paying close attention to how we are responding to all of our facilities needs. So what have we done? Measure H. We want to thank all of you who voted for Measure H. Measure H has been transformational on many fronts for many of the facilities in our school district. But really, what's special about this bond is that this bond touched every classroom, at least in some sort of way. This bond included a technology component, and I'll highlight some of those technology improvements. But we initiated a full assessment of Measure H upon my arrival, and we really looked at how we were allocating those funds. We wanted to make sure that we were doing value engineering, that we were adopting cost-saving strategies so that we could stretch our bond dollars as far as possible to address many of the facilities needs. We have so many needs across our campuses here in NVUSD. Mike Pearson has gotten this bond program organized, which has allowed us to maximize our dollars and to ensure that they go farther. The $269 million bond program, we're so grateful for the voters. Now, what have we been able to accomplish? Because of some of that reworking and updating of our Measure H implementation plan, we are excited that we were able to address some basic facility improvements at many of our campuses. You know, these aren't the things that we get super excited about, but they're necessary in order to ensure a safe, dry, warm learning environment for our students. We've improved asphalt, roofs, paint, and some of our ventilation systems on some of our campuses. And there have been some specific campuses that have been able to benefit from these upgrades, from McPherson to Shear to Donaldson Way to NVLA, Northwood, and Bel Air. We've also had the opportunity with Measure H to build new campuses in a very short period of time. These are some beautiful schools, just beautiful facilities. We're very proud of the builds that we were able to accomplish in response to some of the seismic issues in the district. We built Snow Elementary, Napa Junction, Willow, and River Middle School. And so we're excited that we were able to build these state-of-the-art facilities and look forward to being able to provide potential future opportunities to continue to provide state-of-the-art facilities to more of our students in the district. We've also, this is where it comes sort of the touch at every school with Measure H. School security. School security, it may not feel like it's that important today because of the pandemic, but upon my arrival, it was one of the first things that we assessed. School safety and security is absolutely critical in today's world. And although we don't have all our kids back in campus right now, as soon as we get back to normal, just like before March, the March closure, school security was top of mind. So what have we been working on? We have been providing fencing at a significant proportion of our campuses in order to protect the assets, but most importantly, to keep the students safe, so that we have perimeter fencing and focused fencing at the entries of most of our schools. Security cameras at all of our campuses. We are deploying those security cameras and working through that project right now. And then emergency radios. We've learned now, with this pandemic and just being very heightened around the unanticipated impacts of emergencies. And so we want to make sure that we have robust communication with the fires. We know in Napa there are earthquakes and floods. So being able to communicate amidst emergency is absolutely critical as we prioritize school safety. What else have we done with Measure H in Goal 4? Well, we revamped a food services program previous to sort of some of the Measure H projects through NOSH, our Healthy School Lunch program. But what's great is that Measure H allowed us to put the facilities behind the program. And so there you see our central kitchen. We have finishing kitchens at several of our schools, and this has allowed us to create a top-notch a school lunch program. Healthy eating for our kids is so important to their successful learning. And I want to let you know some of our numbers. Just in the month of October, since we've opened, we've served almost 90,000 meals. So this is just an incredible statistic. It's been amazing what our food services workers have done. They have served hundreds of thousands of meals during this pandemic in our community, and I want to recognize them for their efforts. So thank you. Measure H touched every classroom through these technology improvements. We would not be open, we would not have been able to accomplish robust distance learning without being able to guarantee gold standard state-of-the-art technology in over 900 classrooms in NVUSD. We've got one-to-one, one device for every student. We've got the front of classroom interactive Promethean boards in all of our classrooms. We added the enhancement of the microphone and the webcasting tool due to COVID-19 so that our teachers could broadcast and have good sound quality from their classrooms. And also, we've been able to improve employee technology, providing new laptops for all of our teachers. We're in the beginning of deploying that. Critical to Goal 4 is the district's improved financial status. Like I shared upon arrival, the finances weren't very stable. We were hovering over 3%. And based on some very courageous and difficult decisions, having to close schools, consolidate campuses, which we know is very, very difficult work in our community, we have seen a gain in terms of our financial status. We've increased our reserves from 3%, that state minimum, which is really sort of an unsafe spot for school districts to be, to 8%. We've also, because of our fiscal stewardship, received the highest credit rating possible for school districts. We've had a couple of our charter schools being a better charter authorizer. We were able to bring back 2 of our charter schools into the district, which did help with stemming some of the declining enrollment. And that's River and NVLA that returned to traditional district schools. So we thank everyone. We know we've had to make tough decisions to get there, but that financial stabilization has positioned us to be able to accomplish a lot of this work on behalf of our students. We also centralized enrollment. In this short time, we've virtualized enrollment, we've centralized enrollment. That's actually a picture of our enrollment team out in American Canyon today. So now, not only can parents come and get personalized support at the centralized enrollment center, we can ensure customer service that way and parents getting the information that they need to inform enrollment decisions, but we also are going out to the field and holding enrollment fairs to make that centralized enrollment accessible to families as well. So we're really, really excited to now provide that service. What's ahead in Goal 4? We're going to finish strong with Measure H. We're going to continue to work on and develop a facilities program modernization plan to inform our long-term facilities planning. We'll engage in some study sessions soon with our school board to learn about kind of that long-range facilities planning. And hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to engage our community around a potential future school bond if we can demonstrate enough evidence around our commitment to improving our facilities, but doing it very responsibly and strategically with our bond dollars. And we look forward to being able to make dramatic improvements, particularly to some of the schools in the city of Napa that are in desperate need and are in disrepair, they really, really need our attention. And so we want to continue to do a good job with our finances and our facilities planning to address those facilities. And then lastly, I know there have been questions about the district's decision around potentially closing a middle school. And we did have some discussions about that earlier, not too long ago this fall. And we will, like we said, we're committed to a pause, but we are going to be launching a middle school redesign task force because this is part of our financial stewardship and our commitment to strategic facilities planning. We will be putting together a middle school redesign task force to discuss potential school consolidation, but also to discuss that with program planning and good facilities management. And so stay tuned. We look forward to there being a comprehensive task force that works on this issue that we need to address, because we know that our middle schools are at low capacity and that the dramatic declining enrollment of the last several years has finally been moving through the system. And we know we need to address the declining enrollment that we're experiencing at the middle school level. So Goal 5. Goal 5 is about, it's defined as equity-centered leadership and inclusive organizational culture. And this is really our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want our students to be able to bring their whole self to school. And that means that we need to be an organization that is committed to inclusion. And then we have to be an organization that's committed to equity, which means that once the students are there, we're committed to getting them what they need in their educational experience. So what have we done? We passed an equity policy. It's not something to take for granted. Not every school district has an equity policy. So I want to thank the board for displaying their public commitment to equity through the adoption of that policy. You know, this policy has 6 key provisions in it where we're assessing curriculum in order to ensure that it's more culturally and racially reflective of our student population. Curriculum audits are part of that work. Also making sure that we are allocating our resources to support our students that are most in need, and continuously using data to drive our decision making to ensure, again, that we get our students most in need what they absolutely need to be successful in school. So we look forward to advancing the work that is in the equity policy over the course of the next couple of years. What else have we done in Goal 5? We closed the digital divide. You know, through the distribution of many hotspots, the one-to-one initiative, where we ensured that every student, you know, despite where they live or their socioeconomic status here in the district, that they had access to a computer. When I got here, the district had a policy, mostly at the secondary level, around bringing your own device to school, which can cause a lot of variance and experience in the classroom when it comes to technology. And it could also create tremendous inequity around technology in the classroom. And we wanted to close that digital divide to make sure that all students had equitable access to top-notch technology. And we did that. We went from being a district that was 4-to-1, it was 1 device for every 4 students, to a district now that has 1 device for every student. So we're very proud of that effort. Also in Goal 5, we are committed to language access. Tonight we have translation services. Our board meetings now have translation services. All of our communication, like I shared in Goal 3, is translated into Spanish. And we continue to think about ways that we can ensure language access to our Spanish-speaking community. And also we've provided some of our material also to our Tagalog Filipino families who mostly are in the American Canyon area. It's this language access that's absolutely important to our bilingual communities so that they can make sense of the school system. And so we'll continue to model that at the district level. And over the course of the next couple of years, you should see improvements at the site level as well around consistent access to translation services. We're really excited with Goal 5 around our commitment to culturally and racially relevant curriculum. Recently, we invested $250,000 $250,000 of some of our CARES Act dollars towards expanding literature in our libraries. We wanted to ensure that there was culturally relevant literature in our libraries, and as we promote literacy in response to some of that learning loss induced by the pandemic, we wanted to make sure that students could see themselves and have access to books where they could see themselves and their own life experiences within the stories. We're also using the new history and social science framework to add a broader cultural racial lens to our history curriculum. And then secondary teachers are receiving training to develop multiple perspectives on history into the current curriculum they have. With Goal 5, looking ahead, we're working right now with a partner to develop a long-term strategic plan around equity issues. We know that they take a lot of focus and effort to work through, and so we're really excited about presenting that plan to the school board later this spring. We're also going to develop an NVUSD Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Council that will be able to sort of give us constructive feedback as the work unfolds in this DEI, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Plan. We're most excited about our commitment to ethnic studies in the immediate future. The ethnic studies model curriculum at the state level is up for approval, and our goal is to use that model curriculum as a guide so that we can expand A to G approved ethnic studies courses. The goal is that in the next 2 years, we want to have increased options for ethnic studies for our high schoolers while working on creating more access to culturally relevant curriculum across all of the grade bands. And of course, with all of this, we need cultural competency and implicit bias training, which Dana Page in our Human Resources Division, in partnership with Assistant Superintendent Pat Andrew Jennings, will be leading. Our last goal: strategic, impactful governance and policy implementation. I'll use this as a moment to quote Trustee Jose Hurtado, who will be retiring from the school board in December, who said, if we're going to ask NVUSD to make all of these improvements across these previous 5 goals, we cannot ask that of the organization without asking that of ourselves, the school board. And I always appreciated his stance around that. So what have we done around governance? Well, we did respond to a demand to engage in redistricting. What does this mean? This means that we revisited all of the trustee areas, and we changed how trustees are elected and voted on. And so voters now can choose, vote for trustees in their given geographical area as opposed to voting at large. The idea is that now trustees would be more representative of the area in which they live. The new boundaries are effective December of 2020, and so the new maps are there on our website if you're interested in checking them out. We've also really done dramatic improvements in terms of board accountability. And how have we done that? We've done that through improving our governance practices. In the last couple of years, we've adopted so many new, strong sort of best practices around governance as defined by the California School Boards Association. We updated thousands of policies on behalf of our students, our bylaws, and we also the school board developed a new governance handbook to guide our governance as we move through the year and the milestones of governance as we operate the school district. We established 4 board subcommittees in key areas like facilities and technology, curriculum and student support. We've also established a policy committee to keep updating our policies. So it's been wonderful to kind of work more deeply in these board committees so that our trustees are able to develop more expertise in each of in the various areas. And then lastly, we've articulated board onboarding practices. We have 3 new trustees that are coming on board in December. We're so excited to welcome them. And so we've also sort of codified onboarding activities for new trustees, and we remain committed to ongoing training and annual board self-evaluation. I want to take this moment to honor the trustees that'll be retiring from the NVUSD School Board next month: Trustee Jose Hurtado, our current president Isela Martin, and Trustee Joe Shunk, They've done, it's been an absolute honor. They were 3 of the trustees that were on the board when I was hired, and they have played a critical role in leading much of the work around Goal 6. So I want to thank them so much for their service, and we look forward to celebrating them on December 10th. We also, looking ahead, want to welcome our new trustees that are coming on board, Eve Reiser, newly elected soon-to-be trustee Jason Dooley, and Lisa Chu. We look forward to welcoming them. We're going to continue to strengthen these effective governance practices that we've adopted, and then we're going to continue to just use data to make better decisions at the governance level. And that's a real commitment that I've made to the board on behalf of me and my staff, is to continue to bring them the best data possible so that they can make informed decisions as we navigate and move our strategic plan forward. So I just want to close tonight with our vision statement. The work that I've described across these 6 goals is really about this vision that we have for our students. We are committed to transforming lives by instilling and inspiring lifelong learning in every student. And to make that real and breathe life into that vision, we need to continue to work hard on behalf of our kids across all of these 6 areas. Change can be difficult, but often change, while we preserve what we do well already and preserve our traditions, can really advance us towards reaching that standard of equity and excellence for our kids, and instilling and inspiring them to stay committed to lifelong learning. So I want to thank everybody for their support. You know, the last couple of years have been filled with hard work, but they've also been incredibly energizing. And without your support and your partnership, we wouldn't be able to stand here tonight on November 19th of 2020 and describe so many of the improvements that have taken place in the Napa Valley Unified School District since we adopted that strategic plan in December of 2018. So before handling some of those questions that were pre-submitted, and before taking a couple of live questions, we're going to launch a celebration video that captures some of the highlights of what I've described tonight. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that celebration video. So now we're going to move to some of those pre-submitted questions that we received. We received a couple dozen, so I'm not going to read through all of those right now. But we did take some that were repetitive or fell into specific categories. So there was a question around whether or not NVUSD will be providing a public date or public information around the number of cases, number of tests performed, how often teachers are tested, et cetera. This week, you may have received the communication yesterday. We just posted a public dashboard on our website, and the link can be found in both our family newsletter that went out and also has been, again, shared on the district's website. Our data currently presents the number of students and staff who have tested positive each week. We'll definitely assess what testing data for staff might make sense to potentially present in the future, but that's not part of our current protocol. And our staff is required to test every 8 weeks. And again, I shared that we've been able to accomplish that in partnership with Napa County Public Health and some other resources in the community. We also received some questions around whether or not parents would have the opportunity to change their distance learning option to in-person learning at the end of the semester. The answer to that is yes. And so stay tuned for some future communication in December around being able to make that transition and choice. And you'll hear what's top of mind of everybody around the questions is definitely, you know, phase 2, phase 3, and the ongoing questions around school and the pandemic. What plan does the district have to help the students who are falling behind due to some of the gaps in distance learning? We want to recognize, like I shared in my presentation tonight, we recognize the learning loss. We've adopted tools to be able to assess that learning loss. Those are not only tools that we're going to be using right now during the pandemic. These are some of the tools. We accelerated our adoption of the tools in order to be able to assess students academically and also behaviorally. So we know that many of our students are struggling, and we know that distance learning has been a source and a cause of learning loss. In the short term, these are some resources that we have in place to assist our students, those that I shared. As I described goal 1, we'll continue to kind of think about what needs to be the intervention infrastructure in place at the elementary and secondary levels really in the next couple of years, because it's going to take a couple of years for us to address the learning loss that has been caused by COVID-19. There was a question around Napa going back to the purple tier and if schools are going to pause the in-person learning and go back to virtual learning until our numbers are better. You may have gotten, again, that communication yesterday. It's also up on our website. We have decided we are following the rules of Napa County Public Health. What are those rules? The rules said that if a school district was able to accomplish reopening its campuses while in the less restrictive tiers, the red, the orange, or the yellow, if the county went back to purple, the school districts that opened would be allowed to remain open while the county reverted back to that more restrictive purple tier. The rule, according to the framework and the blueprint at the state level, is that we only need to close a school if 5% of that school's in-person population tests positive for COVID, as we come to learn about cases that are occurring within a school community. We're only, according to this framework, required to shut the entire district down if 25% of our schools have to get shut down within that 14-day period due to meeting that 5% working rule threshold. And so as of now, our numbers are not even close to that. We shared yesterday in our communication that it's less than 0.05%. And so we're going to continue upon return from the Thanksgiving break to implement our phase 2. We are not advancing to phase 3 before the winter break, but stay tuned. We're continuously assessing the public health conditions to inform our decision around when we advance to phase 3. There was also a question about, let's see here, the ventilation systems, again, related to our campus improvements in response to the pandemic. How have the ventilation systems been upgraded, and where is ventilation still an issue? Are these healthy buildings? What's sort of the grading system? Where would we find the information? Is the district making any other healthy building upgrades? So the response to that, we did work on ventilation in preparation for the reopening and in response to the pandemic. All HVAC units have a MERV filter rating of 8 or higher, depending upon the age of the HVAC unit, which falls in the range of our CDC guidelines. We have shifted our HVAC filter replacement from every 6 months to every 3 months. So we've cut it in half because of safety and health. HVAC units have also been programmed to bring in as much fresh air as possible when operating. And we've seen that over the course of the last 4 weeks as we reopen the campuses. And lastly, portable air purifiers have been purchased for classrooms with in-person instruction and are being distributed to provide an additional level of air filtration in our classrooms. There was also a question around whether or not there will be student COVID-19 testing in the near future. And the answer to that is no. California public schools are not required, nor can we logistically or financially support a student COVID testing program. And then there was also some questions, again, all COVID-19 related, around the school's responsibility for informing families in a cohort if there's been an exposure. If a child has a COVID positive family member and attended class, does the school need to inform the teacher and cohort? So each school principal is responsible for notifying families in a cohort of potential exposure. We work closely with public health. We partner around all of the contact tracing and the notifying as we work through these various scenarios. And we let our families know as soon as public health has confirmed a positive case. Guidelines require anyone exposed to a positive case to quarantine for that 14-day period. And I think there was one question. We got a submission with several, but we'll take one of them. I think I addressed it when we were talking about Goal 4. There was a question around if the superintendent and the board had an intent to move forward with closing Harvest in the near future, in commenting that we need to make an actual plan. Couldn't agree with you more. That's why we're very, very excited about the middle school redesign task force that we will be putting together. You'll be receiving communication about that in early December. It'll be a multi-stakeholder task force that'll include parents, teachers, administrators, and we will be working through several topics to make some data-informed decisions in order to address the declining enrollment that we are observing, that strong trend that we're observing at the middle school level. Okay, so I think those are all the questions. We're going to go ahead and see if anyone wants to raise their hand. We don't have that much time. The presentation was quite lengthy, but Mr. Ruiz, let's go ahead and take a couple of questions here. So can you hear me, Mr. Ruiz?
Yes, Dr. Musetti. We'll start with Maria Macias.
Hello, Ms. Macias.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome. So my question is around this lower attendance. What do you think is the cause of the lack of students in our school district?
The declining enrollment? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, the declining enrollment has been happening in the district for almost a decade. This is not unique to Napa Valley Unified. It's actually a statewide California issue right now. And we think that it's been exaggerated and will be exaggerated by COVID-19. So really, one of the main drivers of that is the cost of living in California has been really expensive for a long time, and it has driven many families out of California public school systems. We had been seeing a consistent decline in the Napa Valley Unified School District of a couple hundred students annually for several years. And one of the reasons we had to make some tough, courageous decisions over the course of the last 2 years is because when a school district doesn't respond to its declining enrollment quickly enough, it could get itself in financial trouble because our enrollment numbers is what drives our revenues. And so, you know, really the cost of living, Napa Valley has gotten very expensive. We are concerned around the additional stress that COVID-19 will put, you know, on sort of the economic landscape of everything. And so we've already confirmed that we do have more declining enrollment this year than we had projected. And we know that that's happening up and down the state of California. Again, it's that coupling of the high cost of living and now with this economic crisis induced by the pandemic. So thank
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Ms. Macias. Next, Mr. Ruiz.
Yes, Lorena Munoz.
Hi, Ms. Munoz.
Hi, I have a question or more like an idea, I guess, kind of thing. In your presentation, you mentioned something about the schools being underfunded by like government. If you were able to do like a meeting or ask the government like to go, let's say like to Sacramento and ask for more money to schools to be funded before we close the schools, are you able to let the parents know that you need support or send letters to them? Because I guess some of the parents are more willing to do that and to support the school by doing that and talking to the government so they can support our schools money-wise so the schools won't have to be closed. So you're able to do something like that?
Yeah, so anytime that we can have our parents be part of our team in that advocacy, that's just a great idea and a great suggestion. So I want to thank you for that. California, just to give you sort of a sense, more or less, a school district of our demographic gets approximately, this is approximately about $10,000 per student. In some states in the United States, you know, the per pupil funding can range anywhere from, you know, $15,000 to $22,000, $23,000 at some of the high points. So you can see when I present those numbers how underfunded California public schools are. And so, yes, we want to continue to push for that. There are always opportunities on different sort of tax measures also happening during election seasons, even at the state level, that can help bring more money to the education side of the state budget. But I appreciate your suggestion, and I will note that when we are engaging and advocating for NVUSD at the state level, that we think about how we can do that arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder with our parent community. So thank you. Gracias.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Okay. Mr. Ruiz, we'll take the next raised hand.
So we do not have any more raised hands, Dr. Musetti, at this time.
Okay, well, great. So that is going to conclude our 2020 State of the District. Thanks again for everyone who's attended tonight. For those who weren't able to join us this evening for the virtual event, we're excited. We'll have the recording, archived video accessible to all of our families and our employees. And I look forward to the 2021, maybe 2022 State of the District to be in a room together with our community members. We know that the distance is keeping us apart, but we're really grateful that we're able to use technology to communicate with all of you and to stay connected the best way possible, even in these unusual times. I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Again, thank you for joining, and thank you for all of your support and partnership. And we'll continue to do really good work on behalf of our students in the Napa Valley Unified School District.